All right, my app is going viral. So what I'm going to talk about is what virality is like, actually. What virality is like. So we ready? Are you ready? Okay. So virality is a time warp, right? In a normal application or game, if you get 1 million users in a year, you're extremely excited. And you're very happy. We got 1 million users. You validated your game. You validated your application. You're ready for more investment. You know, it took you a year to get there. You used every means at your disposal to get users to talk about your app, for you to talk about your app, and you got 1 million users. You're very excited. The difference between that and viral is when you get 1 million users in a day, right, that you did not expect. All of a sudden, you're getting 1 million users in a day. That's a very different environment, right? So taking a year to make decisions, you've got plenty of time to try things out, try one solution, try another solution, casually add another app server. It looks like we're getting more traffic. We'll add another app server. We'll add another node to our cluster. The difference in virality is really all of a sudden, all your CPUs on all your systems in your cloud are completely maxed, right? Whether you're hosted locally, you know, on your own system or you're doing it in the cloud, you're just seeing instant max loads on everything, and you're trying to scale as fast as you can. You have minutes to make decisions, and it's actually very crucial. You could lose that virality if you go down in that time. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of stress in this situation. You know, making decisions is very hard. You're trying things out that you've never tried before. And this has actually happened a few times. And I call it the realm of zero time. You have no time to do anything, right? And so you have to keep it up, and that's all that matters. So I know I've heard lots of stories, actually, for even Farmville 1, the things that they were doing to try and keep it up when they had hundreds of millions of users on MySQL, right? They were killing processes, throwing up servers. Users wouldn't be able to log in. Certain sets of users wouldn't be able to log in. They were just throwing hardware at it just to keep it going, right? They had never faced that kind of situation. When they moved over to Membase, I think they had like 250 or 300 million users. And it took them weeks, actually, to migrate over to Membase, which is the precursor to Couchbase. So Zynga uses our product, actually, for almost all their games. As far as I know, it's kind of a behind-the-curtain type thing, right? So, but I have some inside information. So I like that image. It's like all of a sudden time is just spiraling down and just disappearing. So even for like an established application like Instagram, they went to Android and added 1 million users in 24 hours, right? And that's, you know, for enterprise applications like when Salesforce launches something new, they know out of their 50+ million user base, at least 1 million will try out their new product, so they're ready. For some other applications, they may not know what is going to happen. And if you write a new game, you don't necessarily know. Everyone wants to go viral, and they say, oh, that's a good problem. I'll worry about that when that happens. But actually, it's the exact opposite. It's not a good problem to have. It's a nightmare, because you can lose your virality. All that excitement can disappear as it just crashes and you can't get it back up, right? So it's almost like DDoS attacks, right? But they're actually just trying to register, right? There's just so many people trying to register, and you just can't handle it. So they added 1 million users in a day, and that was pretty phenomenal, right? And how much, I can't remember how much they sold for. 1.1 billion, is that right? 1.1 billion, right? So if you've heard about this, we do talk about this story quite often, is Draw Something, and they were on Couchbase. They were not expecting virality. It was actually, they had been around for a while. They had made a whole suite of games, but none of them had really reached the profitability levels to sustain, and they were, kind of sliding into bankruptcy. And this was almost like a last game for them, and it caught the attention of someone on Jersey Shore. They tweeted about it, and they went, in 3 weeks, they got, 30 million downloads. In 3 weeks, they got 30 million downloads. They went from a few thousand daily actives to 16 million daily actives, right? And it wasn't planned, and they were on Couchbase. They had actually read some blog posts, I think, about Couchbase and how it scaled. They used Event Machine on the PostRank Goliath server, which is a very fast app server, but they also happened to be using their own hardware. So when I'm talking about throwing hardware at the problem, even they were astounded by like what was happening. But they had no downtime. They had sub-millisecond latency, right? They lost no data. They kept everything up. And the user, but the most important part of this is that the user experience was unaffected by their growth. Unaffected. And I think that contributed even more to the virality, right? Is that everyone who signed up had the same experience as those few thousand people that signed up at the beginning. Everyone was having the same experience. There was no slowdown, right? That's actually that their game data was nonlinear. Their growth was linear. I mean, an incredible slope, but linear. Their data growth was it was nonlinear. It grew even faster, right? So in 3 weeks, they had 2 billion drawings and 3.3 terabytes of data in 3 weeks. I mean, so most people are not really prepared for that situation, right? And we can talk about MySQL and plus Memcache and sharding and all those things that I guess when you have a year to get to 1 million users, you might be able to figure out how to make it work, right? But if you start jumping to, from a few thousand new users a day to 1 million, all of a sudden you have to re-architect your application. Do you have time to re-architect your application? To remove your joins? Do you have time to change how you're doing things? Personally, I really doubt it. I'm pretty sure there will be some very heated arguments in those rooms about how things should be done. So, I mean, I am prescribing Couchbase, of course. This is CouchConf, and I work for Couchbase. But it's shown. I mean, there's a reason. Couchbase is, especially, most normal apps don't go viral. Like new accounting software generally doesn't go viral. It tends to be in the social gaming space where you bring in your friends and they bring in their friends and you get the network effect, etc. I mean, it tends to be in that area. But if Salesforce launches a new application, they're going to have immense growth, right? So enterprise and social games are kind of similar in that way. They have really large user bases already. So you have to be sort of prepared for everyone being excited about it. So that was amazing. That was amazing. I mean, it was the fastest growing game of all time. Like nothing has grown that fast. And so instead of going bankrupt, they sold to Zynga for $200 million. They became millionaires instead of going bankrupt, which is pretty much every game developer's, their Price is Right winning both, both I guess you guys are maybe, yeah, the showcase show, when you win both, and you get within $100 and you win both. I mean, that's what we're talking about, and you roll, and you spin that wheel and you get $1 or $2 in the same show, it's just like, it's amazing. It's unbelievable. It's like winning Powerball twice, it's phenomenal, So, and of course, the contrary example, so when OMG Pup and Draw Something went viral was around the 1st of March. Right? Around the 1st of March, EA put out a game called Simpsons Tapped Out. Now, here's a brand that I would expect, The Simpsons go to mobile game is going to be enormous. I'm not insulting EA or anything. I'm sure they actually tried to plan. But even with their planning, they could not imagine their success. In the same light, it's like you never really know how successful you're going to be. And it's a great thing to think like that, actually. It's like, I don't know exactly how successful I'm going to be, so I'm going to plan for success beyond my imaginations, right? So 4 days later, they had to take it off the App Store because it was too popular. Right? So you can see that little gray area is all the growth and revenue that they could have had, right, when they took it off the App Store. It's a lot, actually. It's very significant, very significant. And I heard they actually did get it back on the App Store recently, 7 months later, or 8 months later. Right. I don't know exactly because I didn't go look for it, but someone can verify that for me, that it's back in the App Store. So, yeah, I mean, that's the difference here. And actually, they were on MySQL. They were on MySQL. We've talked to them. We've talked to them. But, a lot of gaming companies are using us, actually. We are a natural fit for gaming companies because of our incredible scalability, our ability to handle massive writes. In social games, caching is actually quite difficult because you get a lot of changing data all the time. It's not easy to cache because a lot of modifications, a lot of mutations, a lot of new users. It's not easy to cache that data compared to other types of applications where you actually can cache a significant portion of your data, like product catalogs or things like that. You can actually cache a very significant portion. So the lessons to learn is stress test beyond what you think will happen. Like serious stress tests for millions of users and see what happens. Now that's costly. I mean, you're going to have to figure out ways, if you are a startup or something, you have to figure out ways to accomplish this. But even after you get the app in the App Store, you don't necessarily go viral the next day, right? And even they were on the App Store for weeks before someone tweeted about them, right? So they were pretty much prepared, and they had experts in queue. They did contact us, and of course they were prepared. And that's one of the things is make sure you have the experts on your on your contact list. I'm going to make a Rolodex app, yeah. That way you can say that again. On your Rolodex app, yeah. They might actually, I already have one, right? Yeah. Stress tests, TDD and BDD. Very useful in those time crunches, right? If you've written your tests and behavior tests very well, in those times when you need to try new things, you're ready to try them, right? If you kind of off the cuff just made an application, you're like, oh, we'll deal with that later. You're in a time crunch of virality, you might have some problems trying to test new ideas out and seeing how they work. SQL replication is slow. It's slow. So I'm not saying don't use MySQL or SQL solutions. Actually, I think there's a place for them, right? But if your type of application is something that could go viral, sharding and replication might not do it for you. It won't do it for you. That's a better way to say it. It won't do it for you. I'm trying to be polite, but it won't do it for you. It's very difficult. Sharding is actually quite complex. There are many different scenarios you can try, but each one has its own pros and cons and bottlenecks and things like that. So, right, re-architecting when you go viral is a near impossibility. And if you use SQL, you have to take the app down every time you want to change something. You have to do migrations. So you want to change indexing on different fields and change other things to try and optimize. You have to take it down. That's bad. It's bad. So these are all pretty obvious things. It's really, I'm here to just talk about that contrast, that environment, that mindset, and everyone here loves Couchbase. So I'm really like selling to salespeople, right? So you guys are here because you've heard some stuff, you've seen some stuff. I think throughout the day you've probably seen enough stuff to say, I think I'll download this, check it out, maybe. I'll check it out. It seems cool. I love this slide. This is my favorite slide. It's like, what would you rather be thinking about? If your app goes viral, you want to pick the color of your Maserati. You're like, should I get red or black? I don't know. Blue. Both. Good answer. Right, you probably could. That's what you want to be concerned about, not your database. Right? We scale very well. Questions? Yay. I kept you awake. I mean, I can be more technical. If you have technical questions, I can answer them. I was just trying to keep you guys alive. It's late. We've all been here a really long time. Happy hour is an hour away. Let's make this fun for a while. Any questions about anything? About the applications that I showed? He's got a question. His question is, how do we simulate and how do we load test Couchbase?
What order of magnitude?
Well, actually, I don't know all the details of that. I do know that we have quite a variety of tests. We have simulators for failure scenarios. We have, serious VMs that we pound with data. Our customers are also, like pre-beta, we've actually worked with customers that were interested in testing it out themselves, and they actually had their own stress tests that they were going through in many different scenarios. So, some of the customers that you've heard today actually were part of that program. If you want actual numbers, I have to get back to you, because I don't.
What's the biggest Couchbase you've heard of? Amount of data stored.
I'd have to ask, like Dustin, or I'll find out for you afterwards. How about that?
Terabytes? Or?
Well, I mean, right there you just saw one, 3 terabytes. But you're talking about in how quick, right? I have to find out. I don't know. I have been curious, but I never actually asked him. Is that a good factoid for me to come? It hasn't, to be honest. No one's really asked me like, what's the biggest thing you've.
That's the previous talk and say, oh, I had a lot of data, 200 megabytes. I'm like, come on.
No, we've definitely gone way beyond 200 megabytes. Yes.
I can do better than that.
Definitely in the billions of records, yeah. But how quick and how were you? The minute details I don't actually have offhand, but I can find out for you. Okay, so in technology in general, everything always fragments.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
And then they buy each other up.
Yeah, they buy each other up, or they're not sustainable as an organization, right? So they drop out, or they never catch on to begin with, right? So it's actually healthy for economic sector to have more than 2. Sure. Yeah, which is what you can see in sort of the mobile telecommunications. And luckily, there's still more than Verizon and AT&T, right? So everyone still has to compete. And, like T-Mobile's kind of come around when you thought they were actually almost about gone. They came around, now they're competing again. It freshens the competition, and, but they're competing on messaging, right? I mean, they're almost equal overall. So I think that's just the natural cycle that it fragments. I mean, I've heard of a number of new databases that, to be honest, I see new databases all the time. It's just, I think that the difference really is in, how attractive they are and how quick they can adapt, right, to changing needs, right? And sort of that more agile and sort of high revenue organization you are, the more capable you are to adapting. If you don't have a lot of customers, you have a time frame. You have a time limit on how long you can improve your product. I think that Couchbase in general has been very successful. We have a very strong customer base, and it's growing tremendously. And I think that helps us continue as an organization, while maybe another company may not have that, And so it's not really like the minute differences. I think there's the product and there's an organization, right? And it's not just the product that matters. It's also the organization that matters. I met someone just the other day, and this guy was very intelligent, had made a little database of his own, and he's using some crazy quantum physics theories. I'm sure it's incredible, but he's like, I would never want to actually try and do this because I can't make the company. And I was like, yeah, the company is a lot of other stuff. It has nothing to do with the product. In order to have user acquisition, things like that. Now I'm talking business, but I do have an MBA too. So I like that side of it too, because it is important for making organizational decisions, like which one's going to win. I hear that a lot, actually. Which one of you guys is going to win? And actually, I think that there's room for lots of winners, to be honest. I don't think it's a war, us versus them. I think that we actually fit a lot of use cases that some of the others don't fit, right? Just like Hadoop versus Couchbase, right? They both actually do a lot of things, and I think there is overlap, but they're great as complementary products. We're like, well, I could just use Hadoop. Well, you should just use Hadoop. If you can have 2 days to map reduce, and that's fine because you have an enormous data set that spans 20 years of data from, in crazy amounts of terabytes or petabytes. Or you're, searching through genetic material and you've just got samples of, hundreds of thousands of genetic samples, and then that's what it's for. We're not competing with Hadoop. We pair with Hadoop, and we are the real-time component of that, right? We're not, does that make sense? So it's hard to say. It's not a weird question, actually. But I'd say in the enterprise, just to get back to your question, the enterprise is, more in the Cassandra, versus us. I don't think it's one versus one. I mean, there's some other players. HBase is still around. It's not as active as it was a couple years ago, but it's still there. Any other questions? Any other random questions that you want my opinion on? My random opinion on? All right, well then we're done. Cool. Thanks for coming.